AITA for letting the Golden Boy crash the entire logistics database because I was too negative to be invited to the migration meeting? I, 32M, am writing this with shaking hands because I am so fucking angry I can barely hit the keys. I'm currently sitting in my car in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner because if I go home, I'm going to scream at my fiancée, and she doesn't deserve that. I need a sanity check. I need to know if I'm the asshole, or if I'm just watching a slow-motion car crash that I engineered. Here's the background. I work, or worked, depending on how Monday goes, as a senior logistics manager for a mid-sized distribution company. We handle shipping for about 40 different e-commerce brands. It's high volume, high stress, and incredibly data-heavy. When I started 5 years ago, the place was a dinosaur. Everything was on paper pick lists and Excel spreadsheets that crashed if you looked at them wrong. I fixed it. I didn't just fix it, I revolutionized it. Over 3 years, I built a custom inventory management system practically from scratch. I'm not a developer by trade, but I taught myself Python and SQL just to make my life easier. I called the system Apex. It tracks inventory, predicts stock shortages, generates shipping labels, and talks to the client's Shopify stores. It is my baby. It is the spine of this company. Without Apex, the warehouse is just 50,000 square feet of cardboard and confusion. My boss, Gary, 50SM, used to be a great guy. He saw what I did. He told me, explicitly, when I move up to VP next year, you're taking my spot as Director of Operations. We shook hands on it. I banked on that. I put in 60-hour weeks. I answered calls at 3 a.m. when the servers burped. I was the guy. Then came Tyler, 26M. 3 months ago, Gary calls me into his office. I'm thinking this is it, the transition plan. Instead, sitting there is this kid in a suit that costs more than my car, grinning like he just invented fire. Meet Tyler, Gary says, looking weirdly uncomfortable. He's joining us as the new Director of Strategic Operations. I felt the blood drain out of my face. Director? I thought. Tyler comes to us from big tech company, Gary interrupted, not making eye contact. He's got an MBA and some incredible ideas about synergy and AI integration. We need that fresh perspective to scale. Fresh perspective? I asked, looking at Tyler. Does he know how a warehouse works? Tyler laughed. A hollow, corporate laugh. I specialize in macro optimization, mate. You guys handle the boxes, I handle the vision. I found out later Tyler is the nephew of one of the majority shareholders. Classic. Fucking. Nepotism. For the last 3 months, my life has been hell. Tyler is technically my boss now. He doesn't know a SKU from a barcode scanner. He spends his days in meetings talking about disrupting the workflow and trimming the fat. The fat, apparently, is my team's sanity. He started making changes immediately. He changed the picking routes in the warehouse because the heat map looked prettier his way. Productivity dropped 15%. I fixed it back. He tried to switch our shipping provider to some budget carrier that lost 200 packages in a week. I had to beg our old rep to take us back. Every time I fixed his mess, he'd spin it. Oh, we're just A/B testing, he'd tell Gary. There are bound to be teething issues with innovation. And Gary? Gary completely folded. He's so terrified of the shareholders that he just nods at whatever Tyler says. When I tried to show Gary the data proving Tyler was costing us money, Gary sighed and said, "Look, you're a great technician, but you lack executive vision. Try to be more of a team player. Tyler feels like you're blocking his initiatives." Blocking his initiatives? I was keeping the damn ship afloat. 2 weeks ago, Tyler decided Apex was legacy tech and ugly. He wanted to migrate our entire database to a new, cloud-based platform that his buddy sells. I looked at the specs. It wasn't compatible with our scanners. It wasn't compatible with our label printers. It was a glorified CRM, not a WMS, warehouse management system. I wrote a 6-page report detailing exactly why this migration would fail. I explained the API conflicts. I explained that the data structures didn't match. I used small words. I put it in bullet points. Tyler called a meeting to discuss the migration. I showed up with my laptop, ready to fight for the company's survival. Tyler stopped me at the door. "Hey, bud," he said, doing that condescending shoulder squeeze thing. "This is a leadership strategy session. We really need a positive, forward-thinking energy in the room. You've been pretty negative about the project, so I think it's best if you sit this one out. Stay in the weeds, keep the boxes moving." I stared at him. "Tyler, if you migrate the database without mapping the SKU variants, the system won't know the difference between a red shirt and a blue shirt. You will ship the wrong item to every single customer. We have an AI for that, he said, winking. Don't worry about it. He closed the door in my face. I walked to my desk. I sat down. And something inside me just broke. I realized I care more about this company than the people running it. Why am I fighting so hard to save them from themselves? So, I did exactly what he asked. I stayed in the weeds. I stopped checking the migration logs. I stopped answering the frantic emails from the IT vendors asking where the data mapping files were. When they asked me for the root passwords to the Apex backup servers, I forwarded the email to Tyler with a note. Tyler is the Director of Strategic Operations. All access requests must go through him. Tyler, of course, doesn't know the passwords. He doesn't even know where the servers are physically located, a closet on the 3rd floor, not the cloud. The migration was scheduled for this weekend. Friday at 5 p.m. On Friday afternoon, Gary came by my desk. Big weekend, he said nervously. Tyler says we're going to see a 300% efficiency boost by Monday. I hope so, I said, deadpan. I'm taking next week off, by the way. I have a lot of PTO saved up. Gary frowned. Now isn't really a good time. I put the request in 2 months ago, Gary. You approved it. He had. Right. Well. If we need you, keep your phone on. Actually, I said, I'm going camping. No signal. I'm not going camping. I booked a nice hotel 3 towns over just to sit in a jacuzzi and drink scotch. So, Friday at 5 p.m., I clocked out. I walked past the conference room. Tyler was in there with pizzas and a bunch of external contractors, looking like a general commanding troops. He gave me a thumbs up. I didn't return it. I turned off my phone. I drove to the hotel. I had a steak. I slept for 12 hours. It was glorious. I turned my phone on this morning, Saturday, just to check the time. 47 missed calls. 112 texts. 30 voicemails. The texts range from Tyler asking, hey, where is the config file? To Gary screaming, pick up the phone, to my work best friend, Maya, texting me, OMG, the warehouse is on fire, metaphorically, do not come in. Apparently, the migration happened. And exactly what I said would happen, happened. The new system overwrote the inventory locations. Every single item in the warehouse is now listed as being in bin A000. They have 40,000 units of inventory and they don't know where any of it is. The scanners are bricked. The printers are spewing random characters. And Monday is our biggest shipping day of the month. I listened to one voicemail from Tyler. He sounded like he was crying. Dude, I know we have our differences, but you need to fix this. The system deleted the backups. You have a local copy, right? You always have a local copy. Please call me. I do have a local copy. It's on an encrypted hard drive in my safe at home. I could drive back. I could restore Apex in about 4 hours. I could save the company, save the client contracts, and probably save Gary's job. But they told me I was too negative. They told me I lacked vision. They told me to stay in the weeds. I'm sitting here in this diner, staring at my phone. It's ringing again. It's Gary. I feel like a jerk because the warehouse guys, the pickers and packers who are paid hourly, are going to suffer the most. They're probably standing around right now wondering if they still have jobs. But if I go in and fix it, Tyler learns nothing. He takes credit for crisis management, and I'm back to being the grunt who cleans up the mess. So, AITA for refusing to answer? Should I let it burn until Monday? Update 1. I didn't answer the phone. I sat in that diner for another hour reading the comments on the original post. Most of you said I was NTA, but a few pointed out that innocent people, the warehouse staff, would get hurt in the crossfire. That stuck with me. I started my career on that floor packing boxes. I know those guys. They live paycheck to paycheck. If the company loses contracts, they get laid off, not Tyler. But I also knew that if I went in on Saturday, Tyler would spin it. He's a slippery bastard. He'd say the crash was caused by legacy debt, me, and that his team heroically solved it with my assistance. I needed leverage. I drove back to my apartment, but I didn't go into the office. I got my laptop and the encrypted drive with the Apex source code and the Friday morning backup. I set up a command center on my kitchen table. Then I called Maya. Maya is the warehouse manager. She's tough as nails, takes no shit, and hates Tyler more than I do because he once asked her if she could smile more during the morning stand-up. Oh my God, she whispered when she picked up. It sounded like a riot was happening in the background. Where are you? Gary looks like he's having a stroke. Tyler is locked in the server room with the contractors screaming about suing someone. Maya, listen to me, I said. What's the status on the floor? Dead in the water, she said. We can't receive, we can't pick. The trucks are lining up at the dock and the drivers are pissed. Tyler told the floor staff to manually search for items. Do you know how long it takes to find a specific gray iPhone case in a 50,000 square foot warehouse with no bin locations? It's a needle in a haystack. Okay, I said. I can fix it. Thank God. Get your ass in here. No. Not yet. I need you to do something for me first. I told her my plan. I wasn't going to fix it just to be a mechanic. I was going to fix it as a consultant. I waited until 2 p.m. on Saturday. By then, the panic had set in deep. The owners, the actual shareholders, including Tyler's uncle, had been notified because major clients were threatening to pull their contracts. I finally sent an email to Gary, Tyler, and CC'd the HR director and the CEO, who I've met twice in 5 years. Subject: regarding the emergency recovery services. Body: I understand there has been a critical failure with the new system migration. As I am currently on approved PTO and outside of the service area, I am unable to return to the office. However, I have been made aware that the backups were corrupted during the migration process. As a precaution, I maintained a personal secure archive of the Apex system state as of Friday, 8 a.m. Given that my previous warnings regarding this migration were disregarded, and my access to the project was revoked by the Director of Strategic Operations, I am technically not liable for this failure. However, in the interest of the company, I am willing to perform an emergency restoration remotely. Conditions: 1. This work will be billed as independent consulting at a rate of $400/hour, with a 10-hour minimum, billed immediately. 2. I require written admission from the Director of Strategic Operations that the migration proceeded against my technical advice. 3. Full administrative access must be restored to my account immediately. Let me know how you wish to proceed. I pressed send and poured a drink. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was the CEO. Not Gary. The CEO. Mark, he said. No pleasantries. We received your email. Hi, David, I said, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was hammering against my ribs. This is extortion, he said calmly. No, David, I replied. Extortion is threatening to break something if you don't pay. The thing is already broken. I'm offering to fix it. I'm on vacation. This is my freelance rate for emergency after-hours work. There was a long silence. I could hear shouting in the background. It sounded like Gary. Tyler says the backup you have is company property, David said. He says you stole data. Tyler can say whatever he wants, I snapped. I built Apex. I wrote the code on my own time before I was even salaried for it. And that backup exists because I'm the only one competent enough to know that Tyler's cloud solution didn't have redundancy. If I hadn't stolen that data, your company would be bankrupt by Tuesday. So, do you want the data or not? Another pause. Hold on. The line went dead, mute. I sat there for 5 minutes. 5 agonizing minutes. I started sweating. Did I go too far? Was I about to get fired and sued? The line clicked back on. We agree to the rate, David said. His voice was icy. But the written admission from Tyler. That's internal politics, Mark. We don't air dirty laundry in writing. Then I don't touch the keyboard, I said. I need a paper trail, David. Tyler has spent 3 months dismantling my work and blaming me for his mistakes. If I fix this, he's going to blame me for the crash and take credit for the fix. I need it on the record that this was his call. Mark, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm saving the company. I just want the credit for saving it, and the blame to land where it belongs. I'll call you back. He hung up. I stared at the wall. I was shaking. I had just held the CEO hostage. I was either going to be a legend or I was going to jail. An hour passed. Nothing. Then, my email pinged. From Tyler to Mark, Gary, David, HR subject, emergency recovery. Mark. We are authorizing the emergency work. I acknowledge that the migration to the new platform encountered unforeseen compatibility issues that were highlighted in your previous report. Please proceed with the restoration. Tyler. It was a weak apology. It was corporate speak bullshit. Unforeseen compatibility issues. But it was an admission. He admitted I had highlighted it. I cracked my knuckles. Okay, I whispered to the empty room. Let's go. I logged in remotely. It was worse than I thought. They hadn't just overwritten the data, they had corrupted the file structure. The database looked like a bomb had gone off inside a library. I spent the next 14 hours coding. I didn't sleep. I drank 4 pots of coffee. I had to rebuild the index tables manually. I had to write a script to strip out all of Tyler's garbage AI tags that were clogging the bandwidth. By Sunday at 8 a.m., Apex was back online. It was slow, and it was limping, but the data was there. The locations were restored. I sent an email, system operational. Invoice attached. I collapsed into bed and slept until Monday morning. I woke up today, Monday, expecting. I don't know. A thank you? A firing squad? I drove into work. I walked through the warehouse. The guys were working. The scanners were beeping. The music was playing. It was business as usual. Maya saw me from the floor, walked over, and gave me a crushing hug. You crazy son of a bitch, she whispered. You actually did it. I went upstairs. The mood was different. Quiet. People were avoiding eye contact. I walked to my desk. My access was still active. My email was working. Then I looked at Tyler's office. The glass-walled office that used to be Gary's. It was empty. Not just empty of people. Empty of stuff. The stupid inspirational posters were gone. The stress balls were gone. Gary walked out of his office. He looked 10 years older. He saw me, stopped, and walked over. Morning, he said. Where's Tyler? I asked. Leave of absence, Gary mumbled. Personal reasons. Is he coming back? Gary didn't answer. He just looked at me. David wants to see us in the boardroom. Now. Us? Yeah. You, me, and HR. My stomach dropped. This was it. The backlash. They got the system back, now they were going to fire the guy who held them up for ransom. I walked into the boardroom. David, CEO, was there. The HR director was there. And sitting in the corner, looking very smug, was a woman I didn't recognize. Middle-aged, sharp suit, looking at a tablet. Sit down, Mark, David said. I sat. We appreciate you getting the system back online, David started. However, the manner in which you handled the situation. The financial demands, the refusal to communicate initially. It raises serious questions about your loyalty to this organization. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but the woman in the corner spoke up. Actually, she said, her voice like gravel. I think Mark showed incredible loyalty. He stopped an incompetent manager from destroying the asset, and he ensured there was accountability before he cleaned up the mess. I looked at her. Who are you? I'm the chairman of the board, she said. Tyler's aunt. Oh. Shit. Tyler is my nephew, she continued. And he's an idiot. I put him here to give him a chance to sink or swim. He sank. And he tried to take my money down with him. She looked at David. Mark isn't in trouble, David. Mark is the only person in this room who seems to know how the business actually works. She turned back to me. I read your report. The one Tyler ignored. It was good. Why are you a manager and not a director? I was promised the director role, I said, glancing at Gary. But Tyler was hired instead. Well, she said. We have a vacancy. I felt a surge of hope. This was it. Justice. But, she added, raising a finger. We can't just give it to you. Not after the stunt you pulled with the ransom email. That showed a lack of professional maturity. I was protecting myself, I argued. You were grandstanding, she countered. But you're talented. So here's the deal. You're interim director. Probationary period of 6 months. You fix the mess Tyler made. You stabilize the client relationships. If you can do that without holding us hostage again, the job is yours. And Tyler? I asked. She smirked. Tyler is going back to school. I walked out of that meeting feeling like I had just won the Super Bowl. I went back to my desk, high-fiving Maya on the way. I was the king. I had slain the dragon. That was 2 weeks ago. I thought I had won. Update 2. I am writing this update from home. It's 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. I am not at work. Things have taken a turn I didn't expect. For the first week as interim director, I was on fire. I rolled back all of Tyler's changes. I re-optimized the picking routes. Productivity went up 20% in 4 days. The warehouse crew loved me. I was the guy who stood up to corporate. But then the audit started. Remember how I said Tyler tried to switch us to a cheap shipping provider? Well, it turns out he signed a binding contract with them. A contract with a massive early termination fee. Like, 6 figures massive. When I switched us back to our old reliable carrier, the cheap company sued us for breach of contract. David, CEO, called me in last Friday. "Did you read the contract Tyler signed before you switched vendors?" he asked. "No," I said. "I just knew they were losing packages, so I switched back to save the client relationships." "Mark," David rubbed his temples. "You're the director now. You have to read the contracts. You just cost us $150,000 in penalties." "Tyler signed it," I argued. "It's his mess." "You're the one who breached it," David said. "Tyler is gone. You're in the chair. You own the budget." I was furious. I went back to my office and started digging through everything Tyler had touched. It was worse than I thought. He had purchased $40,000 worth of smart tablets that were sitting in a closet, incompatible with our Wi-Fi. He had promised 3 clients a 10% discount that wasn't approved by finance. Every day, a new landmine exploded. And every time it did, David and Gary looked at me. "You wanted the job," Gary told me yesterday when I complained. "Heavy is the head, kid." But here is the real kicker. The cliffhanger I promised. Yesterday afternoon, I was digging through Tyler's old emails, trying to find the contract for the tablets to see if we could return them. I found a folder marked personal. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. Inside, there were emails between Tyler and Gary. From 3 months ago. Before Tyler was hired. "Gary, listen, the board is pushing for better margins. Mark is good with the tech, but he's expensive and he's stubborn. If we bring you in, we can probably push him out or get him to quit, then we can outsource the dev work to your buddy's firm for half the cost." "Tyler, sounds like a plan. I'll play the bad guy, you play the helpless middleman. We'll frustrate him until he walks." I froze. It wasn't just nepotism. It was a hit job. Gary, my mentor, the guy I trusted, was in on it. He wanted me to quit. He wanted to replace me with cheap outsourced labor because he thought my salary was too high. Tyler was just the tool. Gary was the architect. I felt sick. I printed the emails. I put them in my bag. I walked out of the office yesterday at 3 p.m. without saying a word to anyone. This morning, Gary called me. "Where the hell are you? We have a budget meeting." "I know," I said. "I'm reading some interesting emails, Gary. About outsourcing." There was a dead silence on the line. "Mark," Gary's voice dropped an octave. "Don't do anything stupid." "I think I'm done being smart, Gary," I said. "I think I'm going to be nuclear. I have a meeting with the chairman, Tyler's aunt, in 1 hour. She doesn't know about Gary's involvement. She thinks Gary is a loyal soldier who was just steamrolled by her nephew. If I show her these emails, Gary is dead. He's fired. His pension might be at risk. He has 2 kids in college. But if I don't, I'm working for a snake who is actively trying to sabotage me so he can outsource my department." I'm sitting in the lobby of the HQ building. I have the folder in my hand. My phone just buzzed. Text from Gary. "If you show her those, I will tell her about the consulting fee you extorted. I'll frame it as fraud. I'll say you rigged the crash to get the payout. It's your word against mine, and I've been here 20 years. He's bluffing. I think. But he knows where the bodies are buried too. The receptionist just called my name. The chairman will see you now." I'm standing up. I don't know what I'm going to do. Update 3. I let the golden boy crash the database, and now I've uncovered a conspiracy to outsource my entire department. I, 32M, am back. It has been 48 hours since my last post, and I feel like I've aged 10 years. I am currently drinking a beer at 2 p.m. on a Thursday because I don't have a job anymore. Well, technically I do. But I don't think I'm going back. Let's rewind to the lobby. I was sitting there with the folder of emails proving that Gary, my mentor, and Tyler, the nepotism hire, conspired to make my life hell so I'd quit and they could outsource the department. Gary had just texted me a threat. If I exposed him, he'd frame me for fraud regarding the emergency consulting fee I charged to fix the database crash. I walked into the chairman's office. Let's call her Linda. Linda didn't look up from her tablet. "Sit down, Mark. I have 5 minutes. What is so urgent that you're ignoring budget meetings?" I sat down. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I thought about Gary's text. I thought about his kids in college. Then I thought about the 3 months of gaslighting, the 3 a.m. alarms, and the fact that he was willing to let the warehouse burn just to save a few bucks on payroll. Gary isn't loyal to the company, I said. He's been working against it. Linda stopped scrolling. She looked at me over her glasses. That is a serious accusation against a VP. I have proof. I slid the folder across the mahogany desk. Emails between Gary and Tyler from before Tyler was hired. They planned to force me out. They wanted to replace Apex, my system, with an outsourced firm to cut costs. Tyler was the wrecking ball, Gary was the architect. She opened the folder. The room was dead silent for 3 minutes. I watched her eyes scan the pages. Her expression didn't change. She's a terrifying woman. And why show me this now? She asked, closing the folder. Because Gary just threatened me, I said. I pulled out my phone and showed her the text message where he threatened to frame me for fraud. He said he'd claim I rigged the crash to get the payout. Linda looked at the phone. Then she laughed. A dry, humorless bark. He's desperate, she said. Mark, do you know why Gary wanted to outsource your department? To save money? Because he's embezzling, she said casually. We've been auditing him for 6 months. We just didn't know how he was moving the money. We suspected kickbacks from vendors. If he outsourced IT to a firm he controlled. Well, that connects the dots. I stared at her. You knew? We suspected. You just gave us the smoking gun. She tapped the folder. Go back to your office. Do not speak to Gary. Security will handle it. I walked back to my desk in a daze. 10 minutes later, 2 security guards walked into Gary's office. He started shouting. He pointed at me through the glass. He's lying. He's the one who crashed it. They escorted him out with a box of his things. The entire floor watched. I thought I would feel triumphant. I just felt gross. Update 4. A week passed. With Gary gone and Tyler gone, I was the last man standing. I was the interim director of operations. I had the keys to the castle. But the castle was full of rats. The workload was impossible. I was doing Gary's job, finance, HR, client relations, and my job, keeping Apex running. I was working 16-hour days. Maya, the warehouse manager, tried to help, but she was swamped on the floor. And here is where the Golden Boy legacy really hurt us. I found out that the outsourcing plan wasn't just Gary's idea. He had sold the board on it. They liked the idea of getting rid of me. I was in a meeting with Linda and the new acting CFO on Tuesday. We need to discuss the IT budget, the CFO said. Mark, your salary is significantly higher than market rate for a system administrator. I'm not a system administrator, I snapped. I'm the director of operations. And I built the system that runs this company. Right, Linda said. About that. Apex is proprietary. It's a risk. If you get hit by a bus, we're out of business. I'm documenting it, I said. I'm writing manuals. We'd prefer to migrate to a standard SaaS platform, the CFO said. Something supported by a vendor. We want you to lead the transition. I felt the blood drain from my face again. You want me to kill Apex? After I just saved it? After Tyler almost destroyed the company trying to replace it? Tyler was incompetent, Linda said. You aren't. We want you to oversee the migration to NetSuite or something similar. Then, we can transition your role to a more strategic position. Strategic position is corporate speak for we will fire you once the new system works. I realized then that I was never going to win. I wasn't a hero to them. I was a liability. I was an expensive, stubborn tech guy who held the keys to their data, and they hated it. They didn't care that I was right. They cared that I was powerful. They wanted me to dig my own grave. I went home that night and looked at my fiancée. She was already asleep because I hadn't been home before midnight in 2 weeks. I can't do this, I whispered to the dark room. Update 5. Yesterday, I did something I should have done 3 months ago. I called the owner of our biggest client. A guy named Rob. Rob runs a massive athletic wear brand that ships 10,000 units a week through us. He knows me because I integrated his Shopify store with Apex personally. Mark, Rob said. I heard it's a shit show over there. Tyler is gone? Tyler is gone. Gary is gone. I'm running the ship. Good, Rob said. But my shipping times are still lagging. What's going on? The company is trying to migrate away from Apex again, I told him. They want to cut costs. Are they insane? Rob asked. Apex is the only reason we use you guys. Your inventory accuracy is the best in the biz. Rob, I said. I'm leaving. Silence. Where are you going? I don't know yet. But I can't stay here. They don't value the tech. Come work for me, Rob said immediately. What? I'm building my own fulfillment center. I'm tired of 3PLS screwing up my orders. I bought a warehouse in Nevada. I need a CTO. I need someone to build a system from scratch. I need Apex, but better. I can't bring the code, I said automatically. It's their IP. I don't want the code, Rob laughed. I want the guy who wrote the code. I'll pay you double what Gary was making. And you get equity. I typed up my resignation letter right then and there. This morning, I walked into Linda's office. I didn't make an appointment. Mark? She looked annoyed. I'm on a call. I placed the letter on her desk. 2 weeks' notice. She dropped the phone. You can't do that. I can. It's in my contract. We're in the middle of a crisis. You're the only one who knows how the database works. I'll leave the documentation on the server, I said. And since I'm leaving, you can proceed with that migration to NetSuite you wanted. You don't need me for that. Mark, stop, she stood up. Is this about money? We can discuss the director title permanently. We can match your offer. It's not about the money, I said. And for once, it wasn't. It's about the fact that I saved this company twice, and you're still trying to figure out how to replace me. Good luck, Linda. I walked out. I went down to the warehouse floor. I found Maya, I told her. She started crying. Then she punched me in the arm. Take me with you. Give me a month, I grinned. Rob is going to need a warehouse manager. So, here I am. Sitting in a bar at 2 p.m. My phone is blowing up again. Linda is texting me offers. The CFO is emailing me about legal obligations. But the database is running. The trucks are moving. And for the first time in 5 years, it's not my problem. I might check the logs one last time before I hand over the keys. Just to make sure the golden boy didn't leave any other surprises. But honestly, I think I'll just order another beer. Am I the asshole for leaving them high and dry after they tried to screw me? Maybe. But damn, does the beer taste good.